Hi, I'm Paul Friedman. I'm the founder of the Marriage Foundation, and I bet this title got your attention. You probably are ready to kick my butt. So, 5 reasons why your husband is not intimate with you, and it's all about you. Now, the reason why this is all about you is because we can talk about the stupid stuff like, oh, maybe he's gay, or maybe he's having an affair, or maybe this is happening and that's happening. But I want to give you something that you can actually work with, and it's going to give you deep insight into your behavior in your marriage. Okay? So, yeah, I got your attention with the title, but now let's get into some serious business. Why? Because the Marriage Foundation and I were very interested in you having an amazing marriage. I used to be a divorce mediator well over 20 years ago, and I used to take marriages apart for people. And then a couple asked me to help us save our marriage. Hey, you're a communications expert, and marriage is all about communication, so help us. And I said, oh, okay, why not? We'll give it a try. And I said, give me a few months, I want to look into this. And what I discovered completely removed me from my occupation. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't help people get a divorce anymore because I learned about marriage, the truth about marriage, not what's out there. What's out there is ridiculous. And the proof of that is that half of the people in the world get a divorce. Why? The Western psychological community has been helping couples with their marriages for over 100 years. Why is it still so bad? I mean, it's the equivalent. How they deal with marriage help is the equivalent of if they were the ones responsible for airplanes, they would just be building hospitals instead of fixing the problems and understanding flight better. And I take the approach of we're going to find out what's really happening with marriage. How does it really work? So people have an idea of what to do. That was the first question that came to my mind. It was, okay, I'm going to help them with their marriage. Why do people get married in the first place? And I went, whoa, I never asked that question of myself. I was married before. I was divorced at the time. And I realized I never knew why I got married. You know, you fall in love, you get married. That's not a good reason to get married. So I started asking people because I didn't know why. Every time I came up with a good answer, it wasn't applicable to everyone. It was only applicable like having kids. Okay, great, having kids, but not everyone wants to have kids. They deserve a good marriage too. They get divorced too. Okay, spending time with somebody, could spend time with your friends. You don't need to be married. Men and women are so different from each other, it's almost difficult at times to be with someone of the other gender until you marry them. Then it's harder unless you know the secret. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I started with that. Why do people get married? And it took me many weeks before it came to me. And it was so simple, it was embarrassing. Okay, why do you think people get married? Now, you're not the first person I've challenged with this question. When I started helping couples, because that's what I did, I went from divorcing people to helping them stay together. Every single couple who came into my office, every single individual came into my office, and I wasn't cheap. I said, if you have a better reason for getting married than what I'm going to put on the board, you're not going to pay for this session, which was like $300. I said, I'm going to ask you first, and we're going to list. And we would list having babies, I don't want to be alone when I die, sex, all of the usual stuff. And then I said, okay, those are all good. How about this? We get married because you want to be happy. And everyone goes, well, of course. I said, yeah, of course, but you didn't even put that on the board. We get married to be happy. Now I'm going to take that further. There's a second one. We get married because we want to experience unconditional love. We're souls, for God's sakes. No pun intended. We're souls. Love is what we are. We want to experience love. I'm not talking about the love that people have reduced it down to this emotional love. Oh, I love that car. Oh, I love this dress. Oh, I just love hanging out at that island. No, I'm talking about that deep love that you have felt. You know when you feel it the most? When you see your kids when they're asleep. Yeah, I had to say when they're asleep, because when they're awake, they're bugging us. But we see our kids when they're asleep, and our heart opens up, and that's the real thing. We also have that experience when we go to weddings. And at that wedding, at some point, all of a sudden people start crying. It's like we all get hit with this love, and the mind can't handle it, which is telling us something. The mind can't handle love. Love is very deep. And now I could get into the subject, because the subject is intimacy. Intimacy is about love. So, 5 reasons why your husband is not intimate with you. And I'm going to make it all about you, because you can do something about it. And I want you to do something about it, because intimacy is where it's at in a marriage. So number 1, and I'm going to start with sort of the surfacey stuff, the easy stuff, the stuff where most people go. The marriage foundation is not the easy stuff. We take marriage, we have teachings. I've come up with a definition for marriage. We teach people how to be marriage counselors the right way. We teach step by step how to turn your marriage around. We have books, we have these free videos. You could ask a counselor for free. So let's start with the easy stuff. Number 1, you've rejected him too often. There's this whole thing in the world right now called women's rights. I believe in women's rights. Women have the right to the same pay for the same job. They have the right to vote. They have rights. You have rights to speak your mind. You have rights to be recognized for your achievements. Unfortunately, the world has twisted this, and as usual has gone too far and said you have the right to tell your husband you're not in the mood. Maybe you do, but it's going to have an effect. I had a spiritual mentor for many years, a saint. Many people thought he was a saint. I'm not sure. And I would ask him a question about doing something, and his answer was always the same. He said, sure, you can, but you're going to pay for it. Free will and the laws of cause and effect. So husbands are men. Men are sensitive. They usually don't complain because they don't want to look like they're begging. But when you turn them down, you're reducing his self-confidence. He's not likely to come back and go, oh, you look so beautiful. Let's hop in the rack and just have sex this afternoon. Because he'll be afraid you're going to turn him down. So a lot of women, this is a problem in their marriages. They've done it more than once too often. What do you do about it? What you do about it is you start turning on the charm. Well, let's go through the list because it's a package, you might say. Number 2, you've complained about his lovemaking. Now, maybe you didn't say, oh, you're doing that wrong, or oh, da-da-da, but maybe you've said, oh, that hurts. Or you move his hand, or you adjust him, or you tell him, try it this way. You give him guidelines. That's the big thing, you know. Openness. That's not openness. Men think that they're the greatest lovers on the face of the earth, every single one of them. Well, if he's really hurting you, you have to say something, but not right away. First, you could adjust yourself so it's not hurting and da-da-da-da, but you don't want to give him a roadmap because lovemaking is not about physiological pleasing. It isn't. It's about using sex as a way to connect because you're bringing your two physical bodies so close together that your hearts start operating in harmony with each other, but not if you're focused on getting off. It's the wrong thing to do. And so if you're complaining about his lovemaking subtly, overtly, I don't care how, he's not going to want to come back to you. It's just common sense. Number 3, you're no fun for him to be around you. And now we're getting away from the actual act of making love, and we're talking about in general. What are you like with him? Are you complaining? Do you complain? Ever? Oh, well, why should I never complain? You should never complain. That's why you should never complain, because it's not building love. It's not creating connection. How about criticizing him? Honey, you didn't do this right. Oh yeah, that's going to really make him want you, huh? It's not. Criticism, complaining, condemning, nagging, badgering, all of those things, they're great for cartoons, but in real life, you don't want to be a doormat wife. That's not what we're talking about. You want to be a loving wife who lets your man know he's the greatest. Or why would he want to make love to you if you don't respect him? And think of it from his POV, from his point of view. What is your behavior saying to him? Number 4, you're not focused on expressing love. And I pretty much just touched on this. This is not just for when you're making love or intimate or trying to be. This is all the time. We don't realize that our nature, our human nature, is afraid to venture into the realm of expressing love. It might be embarrassing. He may not be open to it. I'm going to look bad. You know, all of these things that are all about the ego and not about opening the heart. One of the requirements for having a great marriage is to fearlessly open your heart. You're in a marriage. It's just 2 of you. I call it the sacred space of marriage, where you just put it all out there. Give it all. And if you're not doing that, he's not going to be stimulated. You'll just become, when he is interested, a sex object. And that's not going to do any good for your marriage. Number 5. This is so common and easily changed. Your lives have become mundane. You are supposed to live your marriage on the highest planes of love and joy. That is how God intended it for us. It's the most amazing gift for us normal people that we have this beautiful space. I call it the sacred space of marriage, within which you could be happy, loving, carefree, open, joy-filled. And what do? You go, whose turn is it to take out the trash? Did you remember to shut off the water? Who's taking the kids tomorrow? Did you read in the paper where? It's all crap. That's not what marriage is for. You could handle that crap without taking any time. Your time together should be about expressing love, because love is what marriage is about. Love and happiness. And that's it. What can you do about this? You learn about marriage. The Marriage Foundation is all about teaching you. I learned these things and I realized I have no right to keep these to myself. A fellow divorce mediator at the time, when he saw what I was doing, because I wrote a book, he said, Paul, this has to be a nonprofit foundation. We got to get this out to the people. And he handed me a $1,000 check, said, let's get this thing turned into a nonprofit foundation. And that's what we're doing. We want to teach you. Now, his reasoning, he's a very dear guy. It's interesting too, because he was a Navy SEAL, but it really was protective of kids. I guess that's not a shock. And guess who gets hurt the most in these households that are either divorced or failing. The kids. And he said to me, look, we're going to save marriages now, but we're going to save in future generation thousands, if not millions, of kids' lives. And that's why we're here. Go to our website, see what we have, see what will work for you. I founded the Marriage Foundation. I'm Paul Friedman. Like the video if you wish. Leave a comment if you wish. God bless you. I hope to see you again. Take care.